flower power. It pains me to say this, my fellow Americans, but believe it or not, there was a time in this great country way back in the 20th century when folks were still communicating with these crude contraptions. When long-haired pinko kami, drug-addicted, sex-crazed young adults called hippies got all soft with this silly talk of love and peace, as if dropping flowers on your enemy was ever going to win any war. But in this video, we're going to show those clowns from the 60s the real meaning of flower power with this awesome build, and all while wearing the ultimate flower power outfits and accessories. I mean, this is the greenest, most sustainable, most organically grown, eco-friendly build in the game. It starts with getting this rare armor piece called the Guardian Garb Full Bloom. It only drops from these guys who patrol the branch you have to climb to reach the boss area in the Erdtree Sanctuary. You have to farm it before you defeat Malekith and turn the capital city into ashes. Afterwards, they just won't spawn any longer and you're shit out of luck until New Game Plus. Now there's the regular Guardian Garb, which is garbage. Then there's the Full Bloom version. Its special powers will restore 10% more of your health juice per swig, and it also reduces your fire negation abilities. So don't play with matches, kids. I tested it out to see if it works. I lowered my health without the Full Bloom armor and it returned 810 more points of health. While wearing the Full Bloom, I got 891 points of health. That may not seem like much, but in a long, close fight, that little extra juice might just make the difference. And if you put on the Crimson Seed Talisman +1, you'll get another 30% more health per swig for a total of 40% more survival power. And you may take a lot of abuse in this build, so life juice is a must. The obvious weapon of choice is the mighty Shadow Sunflower Blossom at maximum grade. We're gonna shove this flower up every boss's ass. Its Ash of War Shadow Sunflower Headbutt delivers holy damage and the weapon scales with strength. In order to get a hold of this floral killing machine, you have to defeat the Shadow Tree Avatar in one of those horrible, depressing areas of the DLC. It's a long, drawn-out, three-phase bullshit fight you have to endure, but what can I say? It's Elden Ring. Anywho, big flowers have a history of showing up as monsters in movies or as video game bosses for some reason. That makes no sense, really. Flowers only kill insects. I can whoop any plant out there with a mere flick of a bick. Anyway, you trade that remembrance in to wield the Flower of Power and begin your garden warfare run. I'll be wearing the full Guardian set, as well as the Mushroom Crown and the Kindred of Rot Exaltation's Talisman that will boost my attacks when Rot is present. And to kick off some Rot, I'll be using the deadly flower incantation Scarlet Aeonia. I don't know what that toxic shit is, but I bet it's nasty and slimy and just gross. I'm pumped on faith and pumped on strength. I'm gonna make this run without leveling any higher than where I am now. Level 290. So runes don't mean shit in this run, only ass whoopings. I'm also starting the Age of Flower Power on New Game Plus 5. Alright, off we go to the 1960s lands in between to start a real revolution. This first boss is like a garden bug to me in this build. I'm going to eradicate this garden pest with a few furious swings of the Flower of Power, and it's going to set the tone for the herbicidal madness that I'm going to unleash on this godforsaken world. My strategy will be to get the Rot started early, then go nuts with a flurry of R1s and R2s and a well-timed L2 headbutt with my big sunflower thing. The beauty of this build is that you can go aggressive with the power swings, or play passive by simply letting the Rot run its course. Either way, you can control the action accordingly. Sometimes I'm going to go hard, sometimes I'm going to take it a bit easy, like those chilled-out hippies used to do back in the day. Look at them. Useless. Get a job, you bums. For the early bosses especially, just one dose of my toxic Rot Flower power is enough to suck the life out of them. The rest of the time, I'm going to tickle them to death with my little friend, the Flower of Death. You need big boy pants to stand there and deliver the blows quickly, so don't be shy. Imagine being beaten to death with a big flower. How humiliating. Godric was even less of a challenge. I just get to hammer in and lose my mind. This flower is extremely satisfying to use. It's like unleashing the power of nature. I'm almost ashamed of how easy this was. The good news is that you'll always have flowers to present at the boss's funeral since you're already wearing a bouquet while you're killing them. Even with lower fire negation, I'm still able to withstand this old geezer's second phase fire attacks. 3 successive swings are usually enough to stance break just about every boss and enemy, great or small. The power of the flower, the toxic rot, my Nobel Prize winning skills and superior gamesmanship combine to deliver botanical retribution every step of the way. Actually, I'm not the world's greatest Elden Ring player, but I'm pretty sure I'm up there, like in the top several tens of thousands at least. But that's the point of this video, to demonstrate how you don't need to be all that talented to confidently play this game. This build, at this mid to high level, is fun to use, and I was able to beat every boss on the first or second or third try for the most part. I'm not interested in having perfect no-hit runs or one-shotting anything. I just want to have fun, like those hippies had at those riots and protests, overturning cars and running from the barrage of tear gas. That must have been a blast, and that's what I'm having right now, a flower power blast of blooming fun. Take that, you stupid horse guy. What makes Elden Ring the best game ever made is that the game can remain challenging for years and years. There's no one way to play it. You're allowed to use everything the game provides you with to give it a go. No build is too silly, no weapon too useless. You rarely ever have to fight alone, and there are countless strategies you can exploit just by experimenting. Failure is allowed, even encouraged. Dying is good for you. Failure only makes you better. Or you can just rage quit and go play some easier game. Like all those hippies who quit trying to beat the man and became the man. Looking like a compost heap with flowers and spores shooting out of my back and head, I suddenly felt oddly powerful. More powerful than with any other build I've ever used. I felt bold, reckless even, unafraid to leap off my horse and just start rotting and clobbering bullies like this monster and his tiny horse with the fury of a madman, blindly swinging and smashing things until it stops moving or dissolves in a cloud of white puffy smoke, like fireworks on the 4th of July. I'm no passive flower child, baby. I'm a killer weed you just can't get rid of. Herbicides have no power over me. I'm just deadly vegetation extinguishing the life out of my pathetic enemies in the most brutal yet thoughtful way possible, with a bouquet of flowers. That's pretty classy, actually, if you ask me. I was just one hit away from finishing him off in Phase 1. But the big guy can't stop the rot I sent pouring into his veins from slowly but efficiently working its deadly magic. He barely made it back to Earth before the rot drained the last drops of health from his long red bar. And speaking of long red bars, the fire giant's feet were about to get some serious flower power smashing from the big sunflower of doom. I become a windmill of destruction, smashing his bones and sending him into second phase within seconds. You need lots of stamina to sustain this onslaught, and I could scarcely catch my breath between the blows. For his second phase, I chose to finish his life off slowly with a single dose of biochemical warfare, then circle around him, spamming him with rings of light until he fell like those hippies under the clubs of riot police. The good old days of beating hippies over the head with clubs. They'll come back again one day soon, I hope. Until those good times roll again, I can take it out on this dynamic duo of fat and skinny. The more I beat these dupes, the more I come to appreciate the kings of tag team bosses, Orenstein and Smaug, or however you pronounce those wonderful, fun-loving boys' names. Those guys were a blast. It just feels so good clubbing these sleepyheads over the head with this holy flower power mayhem. They're going to need stitches on their heads like those commie hippies of the past and those bandages to stop the bleeding. Quite frankly, it was tiring rinsing and repeating this cycle of sleep, beatings, fungal poisoning. It became an almost mechanical double homicide, a prerequisite to get to some other, more challenging fight. In the end here, I got a bit greedy and forgot that flowers and fire don't mix. Unfortunately, flowers and plants can't run away from fire. Still, it counts. I hate this beast clergyman. He's like a hyperactive child on cocaine with knives and boulders at his disposal. This technique disposes of him quickly without all the drama. I lay down the rot, wait until he's close to second phasing. Then I call in my flower power doppelganger so we can finish him off and get to the real star of the show. Just take a look at the power of this flower. And then, he meekly awaits as I deliver the final merciful blow. I felt sorry for the fellow, actually. I'm a rogue sunflower who doesn't follow the rules, carrying out extrajudicial justice in the name of all flowering plants. For this pesky know-it-all, I call out my squad of skeleton mercenaries. They'll surround him and pen him in as I give him the business. Unable to maneuver and do all his crazy spells and gymnastics, he's down in 1, 2, 3 hits. Adios, partner. I bet you didn't see that coming. He talks too much. Even after I slaughter him, he keeps on jabbering. I use the same tactics on the Hulk wannabe here. The skellies and the girl keep him busy while I rot him and sneak up behind him and plaster him with some sunflower love. He's getting a whiff of defeat here, and the 7 of us are descending on him like flies on a turd on a steamy, hot August afternoon in New York City. Yeah, you haven't lived until you see and smell that gritty reality of life in the Big Apple. And just like every other so-called boss in this game, Andre the Giant gets wheeled out the arena in a pile of dust and smoke that evaporates into the oppressive atmosphere of this world until I return here in New Game 6 to do it all over again with some other build, some other deadly force. When it comes to the last bosses, both are strong against holy damage, but that's no barrier to our flower power. The Ash of War still deals great holy damage, and the blows are capable of bringing them to their knees. The Fire Giant can be killed with fire, and Radagon and the Elden Beast can be killed with holy damage. There's nothing in this game that is invincible or can't fall to even the most humble of weapons. Check out this beatdown. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 devastating blows, one right after another. This is just a brutal, merciless beating I'm sure he'll never forget. My mimic just keeps wailing on him like there's no tomorrow. For me, it's just another day in the garden, getting rid of the bugs and slugs and other pests that want to eat my beautiful, deadly flowers and plants. The Pest Thread Spear's incantation rips into the beast with devastating results. It's the most powerful pesticide my flower power build has in its garden shed of tools to keep his garden free of unwanted pests like this big thing. It's just a slimy slug threatening my beauties. I tried to set off my flower bomb, but I landed on his back and just slid off his slimy skin. I bet I couldn't do that again if I tried in a million years. I was having such a blast pestering him to death, I forgot to whack him with the sunflower until he was already gasping for his last breath of life before it was all sucked out of his enormous body. Oh well, it was doomed anywho. The power of the flower has already been established. This flower power is not your grandfather's flower power. It's not interested in making peace and love, only war and hate. Although those shag vans were pretty cool and probably the greatest contribution to pop culture I'll give those pinko commie hippies credit for. With the beast out of the way, there's just the Lord of Blood to eliminate in more or less the same fashion, the flower power fashion. Then I'll move on to the DLC, or maybe not. I much prefer the lands between to the Shadow Realms. I guess I just feel much more at home in the base game area and am more familiar with all its nooks and crannies than in the DLC. Still, I take out the Lord of Blood as a formality and as one more example of just how good this flower power build is. Combined with high faith and all the incantations at your disposal, melee and ranged combat styles can easily coexist and actually turn out to be a whole lot of fun. And I have tested this build in the DLC and found it to be just as effective against the beasts and challenges it has to offer. I can use this build over and over again with the same results. The Shadow Sunflower is without a doubt an S-tier weapon with a strength scaling of B, and with an Ash of War that will splatter them with enough holy damage to make saints out of sinners.
I can see it as clear as day.
Alright, I'm going to wrap this show up now and greet my adoring subjects as the new Elden Lord. I look so freaking awesome in this getup. I've put to rest any debate whether the flower power of the 1970s hippies can compare to the 2020s flower power of this plant-killing assassin build. And can say with confidence,
our seed will look back upon us and recall an age of flower power, peace and love, baby.
Oh, and as you can see, I'm ready for new game +6 and I didn't level up. Still at a respectable level 290. Just thought you'd like to know. Thanks for joining me on this hippie-trippy journey. I really appreciate your comments, likes, and subs. And for all you old hippies out there watching this, I just want to say thanks for all that sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And the shag van. Rock on, man.